Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Dan-A-Plooza. My guest at this time right now is Amber Dawn Fox.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good to have you here. So I wanted to first get into some questions about The Walking Dead.
Okay.
Can you first tell me what it was like? Did you have to audition for your role as Officer Bella?
So it was a little bit different because Officer Bello was featured but didn't have any speaking lines. It came upon by a complete accident, which is pretty funny. I had submitted for another movie by the same extras casting company, and I got a text message a couple weeks later that had told me they had got my submission for that movie, but they were looking for a featured cop, and I just so happened to fit exactly what they were looking for. You never know, exactly what they're looking for when you go to apply for different roles unless they specify. Sometimes they want you to be a certain height, certain hair color. You can't look like the other actor, whatever. So they said they were looking for the officer for Walking Dead. They didn't give me any other information than that, just asked if I wanted to be considered for it. So I said, sure. And I had to send in like a bunch of pictures and my acting resume and all that stuff. It was a named role. It was in the script, but she never talks. So I didn't have to actually do an audition, but I did have to show that I had plenty of set experience and send in a bunch of pictures. And then the director went through their top picks and chose who they wanted. So I found out a couple weeks after that I had booked it, and I was really excited. I had been watching the show since day one. So to get on a show you actually watch is like 100 times better than working on other things, I think.
Oh yeah. Getting a response from Walking Dead highway walker Jeremy Ambler saying hey.
Oh, hey Jeremy. Yep, that's a good friend of mine.
We've had Jeremy as a guest before, and we look to have him forward to have him again. So tell me what your thought and reaction was. You filmed the scene, but then did you go home and watch it right away, or did you watch it later on?
I watched it later on. We filmed it probably we filmed in the summer, and then it didn't come on until at least 3 or 4 months after that. So I had to hold on to that secret for a long time. I had filmed another episode before that, but of course the second episode I was in was the big scene with Beth, and we had to sign our lives away that we wouldn't tell anybody. I didn't even tell my husband. I didn't tell anybody for months. So that was a big thing to hold on to because she was one of those characters that everyone either loved or hated. So a lot of people would ask me, "Who'd you get to work with?" And I would go ahead and tell them, like, I worked with such and such and such and such, but I couldn't tell them any more than that.
Yeah.
So it was hard.
What does it mean to you to see sometimes your face and be pictured on like Walking Dead items and people to bring those items to you at a convention to sign?
The whole experience with just being on Walking Dead and having the whole convention thing start up, which was not anything I ever planned. When I booked Walking Dead to start with, I was like, oh, that's, a good thing to add to my resume to start out till I can start getting the speaking roles. And it might lead to some more auditions. And that's about all I thought. And then the convention started calling and the people started asking for autographs, and it's just been like totally life-changing, crazy experience. I didn't realize I knew that Walking Dead was huge and had a big fan base, but I didn't realize how dedicated the fans were until my social media numbers started like shooting up, and they were like, "Oh, we saw you played Officer Bella in Walking Dead." And I was like, "How did you know that? I didn't even talk."
Just I stood there. What did it feel like to you as an actor to see that whole scene unfold in front of your eyes?
As an actor, it was amazing. Number one, since I didn't have lines, I didn't see the script beforehand, so I didn't go in with any knowledge of what was going to happen. They just pulled us to the side, and we had like a meeting before we started filming. They were like, okay, this is what's going to happen. This, we don't want you to have much of a reaction because you don't care about her. So I had to definitely separate the actress in me from the fan of Walking Dead in me. And then to see how that scene was a big scene, but it ended up being 2 or 3 minutes on screen, and we filmed 2 days for 14 to 16 hours a day. So just to see how much our hard work came into one small little piece of the episode was amazing, though.
Well, I definitely remember just watching it and kind of being awe and in shock at the same time of watching that moment unfold. And then just being able to watch that scene whole develop, and then seeing how the show progressed afterwards.
Right. I think that was a big turning point. Losing her was definitely a big turning point in the show. So I was, number one, honored to be a part of it. And I was also shocked when I went into the meeting. They were like, oh, by the way, this is what's going to happen. And I did not see that coming. You think she's going to get rescued, and then never mind.
A twist. So tell me about, because I've seen the trailer for it, for the movie Raleigh, I Kind of Like You.
Raleigh, I Kind of Like You was a lot of fun. It's completely different from Walking Dead. It was a romantic comedy. So that's another fun thing about acting, is getting to do like totally different things all the time. But we filmed it obviously here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And it was a lot of fun because it was a lot of local actors that I've worked with, and it's a big ensemble cast. It's hilarious. It's on Amazon Prime now, and it's doing really, really well. The numbers they keep going up, so it may be released other places in the future. We don't know yet, but so far so good.
And for anybody watching, this is what the graphic looks like for it. So if anybody's looking for it, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about any other projects that are in the works?
Sure. So I have 2 feature films coming out the rest of this year. We have next month, Beasts of the Field will start streaming. I had the lead role in that, and that one's a little bit more on the Walking Dead side. It's like horror thriller. It's this group of people that go out into the woods, and they're looking for this mysterious thunderbird, and it's kind of what happens when things turn sideways and everything starts going crazy. It was a lot of fun, a lot of special effects, that sort of thing. That one's coming out streaming next month. And then starting November 11th, I did a Christmas comedy called Christmas Proposal, where I play the supporting role of like the neighbor. And it's this very quirky, crazy character. I go back and forth between doing like horror thrillers and comedies, so it's a lot of fun. The next month I start shooting Locked In, where I'll play the same director as Beasts of the Field. I'll be playing the lead character, and it has to do a lot with sex trafficking, but it's horror thriller as well. So it's kind of like a spin on that.
Now, growing up, did you always want to be an actress?
No, I should have. We used to, when I was little, my brother and my cousins and I used to pull out the old video camera and do little skits and pretend to be like cops on the cop show and do commercials. And so it's something that I should have realized, but I didn't think of it as a career. It was just for fun back then. It came by complete accident. I was actually working as an accountant in a car dealership. That's what I went to school for. And I just randomly happened across an ad one day on the internet back in 2009 that said they were looking for background extras in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is not too far from me. And I didn't even realize that, shows were filmed there. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I started doing it as a hobby for fun. And then I realized like I want to do this for real. So that's when I started getting into acting classes starting in 2014 and started auditioning for the speaking roles. And then, of course, right when I started, that is when Walking Dead happened, and everything is just kind of blown up from there.
So, given the fact that the pandemic has taken place and is still taking place, did that concern you as far as to doing work during these times when we were in quarantine?
It did, especially, of course, right when it started, everything closed down. The industry was closed down for almost 6 months. So at that point, I kind of thought, okay, is this going to be it? Am I going to be able to do this anymore type thing? And the big thing is, too, that I don't technically live in any of the towns where the things filmed. So when things started coming back, they were like, oh, you have to live right here. We don't want to bring anybody in from outside. So it's been a little different, and things have definitely slowed down a little bit, but it seems like, now that they've got the vaccines and they've gotten their rules where we wear masks in between takes and all that stuff. So things are getting better for sure.
Apologies. I had slight technical difficulty, fixed it.
No worries.
So, where do you see yourself maybe in 10 years from now? Like, do you
Mhm.
still see yourself doing films, or do you want to do sitcoms? What is kind of like the ultimate maybe dream role or goal?
Right. That's a good question. So my ultimate goal is definitely to be like a series regular on a TV show.
Hmm.
You know, steady work is always the thing that everybody wants in this business because it is so off and on. I enjoy doing films and I will keep doing films. That's definitely in the cards too. But the only thing that is pure steady work is a good long running TV show that you have, you
Right.
know, series regular roll on. So that's definitely the ultimate goal.
Do you have a certain genre that you would like to be in?
Um, you know, I used to say drama, but I've done so many comedies now and they're so fun because you laugh all day at work. So I would probably do either. Honestly, I like going back and forth, but if I had to pick one to do all the time, it would probably be comedy because it's a lot better to laugh all day than have to make yourself depressed and cry all day, I guess.
Yes. um, do you find yourself like especially busy more around the time of like, since we're getting into October and you've done like a lot of horror films?
Yeah, so definitely the horror films usually release around this time, so it does get busier as far as I'm still filming and then, oh, this is coming out and this is coming out and do you want to come to this premiere? And there's a lot of and the conventions that I do, a lot of them are like horror themed conventions, so they're also in the fall and right around September, October. So yeah, I definitely it and the business always has like busy times and slow times. It's like a huge roller coaster ride. I'll do nothing for a month and then be busy for 3 months straight, and then nothing for a few more weeks. So it's definitely off and on all year.
Do you remember kind of who first you may have bonded with or had some kind of friendship with when you did The Walking Dead?
Yeah, the other cops were definitely because we all kind of hung out together in between takes, and the guy that played Officer Tanaka, which if you know the first scene that I was in where not the Beth scene, but the a few episodes before where the girl gets her arm chopped off.
Right.
And me and one of the other officers had to drag her down the hallway. That was like my first day on set. And so we spent a lot of time getting to know each other. Then come to find out, you know, she got killed off. So it was definitely the other cops because you kind of hang around who you're in the scenes with most. But I did have time to talk to a lot of the main cast as well. Um, Emily Kinney and Melissa McBride the most, of course, during that big scene because they were on our side. I'll call it because we were kind of split on two sides of the hallway.
Mhm.
But everybody was so nice and down to earth on that set.
You know, that's what I always hear is that everything was very positive during the
Mhm.
filming of The Walking Dead, and everybody, even through the whole convention life, is also very positive too.
It really is, and that was one thing that surprised me because going on the bigger sets like that, especially as an extra, you don't know what you're getting into. Because I have worked on some TV shows and movies where some of the main actors were kind of more standoffish than others.
Yeah.
But Walking Dead was a totally different experience. They Andrew Lincoln walked up and introduced, asked my name, and
Oh, wow.
shook my hand right away. So it was definitely a different experience.
Was it a little bit nerve wracking at first?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, I'd been watching since day one, and it was my favorite. Is my favorite show. So it was a little bit nerve wracking, but I got over it pretty quick because things move so fast on set too. I didn't really have time to stay nervous before they were like, "Okay, this is what you're doing."
And scene. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
um, Also, with this month being Halloween, do you have like a certain favorite horror film or series?
I like a lot. I've been watching horror film series, especially since I was little. I can remember I was like 7 or 8, and I was sitting there watching Child's Play, and my mom was like, "Are you sure you want to watch that?" So that was my probably first favorite, but my ultimate favorite is probably the Halloween. And
Oh,
you know, with that, there's a new one coming out soon. I don't
mhm.
know if you'll see me. I did actually go back and work as a background extra, which I haven't done in a long time now that I've been doing the speaking roles. But because Halloween was filming here, I went because I didn't get any auditions for speaking roles. I didn't fit anything. So they were like, "Oh, we need extras." I'm like, "Okay, let's go." So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I do know that I think I talked to one of the other actresses. I think she was also kind of like a featured extra in Halloween
Okay,
Kills,
nice.
and I think she'll be on possibly in October. We're still
Okay.
working on that. But what does it mean to be on set of like that horror film and to have watched that horror film?
It means a lot, just getting to see things that you've watched on TV created in real life is amazing. Like I got to work on set of the actual hospital that you've seen in so many.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with Walking Dead and Halloween. And back when I was doing background extra work at first, I worked on a lot of shows that I watched on TV. And to me, it's always an awesome experience to work on something because like you're stepping into the world that you get glued to the TV from.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I love working on set regardless, but it's always fun on something that you've watched before.
Is that kind of like what your first reaction when you saw yourself on TV? Like, what was your reaction? Do you remember the first time?
Oh, the very, very first time I saw myself on TV, I did background extra work on a show called One Tree Hill at the time. And it was like this big crowd scene at a sports game, but I just so happened to be sitting like 2 rows behind the main actors where they were sitting. So the whole time they're having their conversation, you can just see, but you could see that it was my first time because I was like deer in headlights. Oh, wait, I gotta work on that.
What do I do?
Gotta work on it. I think I was just like so in awe of being on the set and seeing how everything came together. And at the time, that was one of my favorite shows too. So it was like, oh, there's the main actors. I learned a lot since then. I didn't act like that when I did Walking Dead. That was a good 5 years before I was on Walking Dead. So it was definitely something to get used to of like, okay, you have to put the whole fangirl thing aside and just be yourself and be an actor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's sometimes is the challenge at first because we're in awe of being kind of in this magical place and something that we've adored and sometimes is very close to our hearts. And then we have to realize that we have to break that wall down,
Exactly,
and we have to, play the role that we've been cast as. So that way the whole scene plays out.
Yeah, exactly. I learned that really quick. When you're working in a big crowd scene like that, at first you think, oh, it's not going to matter. They're not going to be able to tell.
They can't catch that.
You can tell.
Yeah. I've learned that as well. I've done some extra work and worked on some films. So I know it's definitely been a process. I always say it's always a learning experience.
It definitely is. The more you do it, I guess I wouldn't say that I'm numb to the magic of it all because I still think it's amazing every time I get to walk on a set. But after you do it so many times, I think it gets a lot easier to just kind of turn that part off.
Do you ever imagine yourself like maybe as like the villain, like in a horror film? Like,
absolutely. I get typecast as that quite a bit. I've been really lucky to play lots of different types of characters, and of course, we know with Walking Dead, I was part of the villain group. But in Beasts of the Field, since it's not out yet, I can't say too much, but I will say I did get the chance to play the not so nice character in that, and that was a horror thriller. So it was a lot of fun. It's so much fun to play someone opposite of yourself too.
Oh yeah, it really makes you think outside the box, and it's a good way for people to see you outside of what they've seen you before.
Right, exactly.
So as 2022 comes along, is there anything that you would like to more see yourself in or shoot forward, or certain kind of projects, films? Is there a certain goal for 2022?
My goal is always to, we have a lot of stuff that comes to Wilmington area, to like I will call the bigger TV shows and movies and stuff like that. So my ultimate goal is always, and I've started auditioning for those, but I'm still to the point where I'm waiting to get that first speaking role on one of those big shows. I've done some of like the true crime recreation shows on TV. So I've broke the whole speaking role on TV. I'm just trying to move to that next level, whether it be a Netflix show or something on like CW or, feature film at the movie theater. But just keep doing what I'm doing and keep moving my way up is definitely the goal for next year.
Is there a certain show that's out now that you would like to be on?
Oh, that is a good question. I hadn't thought about that in a while because it always used to, when I started doing extra work, it was always, oh, I want to be on The Walking Dead. I got lucky and that happened. So I don't know if I've thought about it since then. I would definitely say, well, it's in LA. It shoots in LA, so this is a big dream. But I've been watching Grey's Anatomy for years, so I would love to have a role on that show for sure. Um, and then as far as movies, I don't know, just any kind of horror thriller. I think big budget
Mm-hmm.
would be good.
I'd like to see on Law and Order.
Oh yeah, that would any of those kind of shows too, or CSI.
Oh yeah,
All of those are fun too.
that would be something working with Mark Hamill.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I want to thank you for being a guest on Dan-A-Plooza. Dan-A-Plooza rolls on today with Sean McArdle at 4 p.m., our guest Shasta Lowe at 6 p.m., and our guest Morgan Ziva at 9 p.m. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and have a good day.
Thanks, guys.